Happy holidays. The Wise Guys are back. And, there's always an exciting buzz as we bring you to our lair here in Provo when Jimmer's coming on the show.
Yeah.
And he's coming on the show here in just a bit.
We get excited when Jimmer's coming on the show. We just saw him the other night. He's been in town. But when he comes on.
He exudes big-timeness when it comes to BYU.
Yeah.
And so we love having him on the show. There's a lot to talk about. Welcome to the Wise Guys on our Monday night, the number one BYU Sports global live stream in the entire world.
Was Mark Actual the first one in this week?
Was he first one in?
Best night of the week.
Let's give him a shout out.
Neil Jones from Tucson's in the house. Jonathan Ashcraft from Henderson. Nevada's big time representing.
Nevada's always representing.
And Ruthie 5358 always in with us.
Howard's in from.
Watching from Harriman. Hey, and we appreciate
Anchorage.
that, Ruthie. We're feeling good about Monday night as well. And from Anchorage, we love that.
Yeah.
Is it dark up there? It's like really dark up there this time of year, right?
My grandson McCann is listening in. He'll be at the house a little later.
Maddie Floyd. Hi, Grandpa.
Yeah, Robert from Ridgecrest, California. And, man, everyone's just hopping in. It's the holidays. And
we're glad.
Where else would you want to be?
We're glad to have you with us on a Monday night. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff because it's recruiting time for football. It's right in the middle of basketball. We're glad to have you here. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat here. And hit the subscribe. It's free. We're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com. And ysguys.com is where it's the clearinghouse for everything, right, Dave?
Yeah, it's like a Costco.
Yeah, it really is. Like anything you need.
Costco of Wise Guys.
Is Wise Guys. Because if you subscribe, then you get our weekly email, and then it has highlights from the show, past interviews. You can kind of scroll through. Interviews like Steve Young, Danny Ainge, Wally Joyner, Marie Osmond from way back at the beginning, Jimmer Fredette. First time we'll have Jimmers from tonight back on there. Kyle Van Noy, who's now the starting backer.
He's playing great.
Yeah,
for the
when he was
Ravens.
with us, he was like, "Nah, I'm going to miss camp because I just don't want to. And if I get picked up, I got a plan." And he was right; he had a plan. So he's with the Ravens right now. Sherry Dew was on with us. Phenomenal. So you can go scroll through. And hey, by the way, the great Libby Lloyd is
right
on there singing with me. And guess what tonight is?
Opening night of Wicked.
It's opening night for Libby in Wicked. We didn't announce it a couple weeks ago. She let her contract expire with Moulin Rouge. She was getting worn out from doing more than 800 shows in that show with a heavy dance. And she makes her debut in Wicked on Broadway tonight. I wish we were there.
That is awesome. I wish we were there. By the way, Jen from Arizona is in with us. Mark from Bountiful. Howard saying, hey, the sun set 30 minutes ago here in Alaska. It's 28 degrees and snowing. About 3 feet of snow accumulated here. It's Christmas time.
Do you know what, Howard? I would rather have what you have because it was cold today down in the valleys, warm in the mountains. And as I drove to Salt Lake City,
when you have smog,
it was smogged out. And the further north I looked, the worse it looked. And I'm not talking about fog. We're talking smog. So we would take a nice big 3-foot dump of snow and no smog.
And we're going to get a little rain and snow this weekend.
Yeah, we need it.
Christmas Eve, so that'll be cool. Tonight on the show, we're going to talk BYU hoops. They're 10-1, moved up in the polls today. Jimmer Fredette's going to join us. First we have to talk about the Cougs. We have to talk about his broadcasting career as he started up with BYU TV and the Olympics. Remember when he was on with us earlier in the year, he said, if I make the Olympic team,
that was an idea.
I'll come back on.
It was a seed that has now started to grow into a tree.
So he's going to represent Team USA, and he's coming back to Wise Guys tonight. And Ross Oppo is going to join us. You remember him as a receiver for BYU. He's very much in this business of raising receivers and tight ends and running backs through his training program. And so when the portal's open and it's recruiting season and signing time, these are his guys.
Yeah, he knows a lot about the talent pool that's out there, not just here locally, but across the country, because he stays pretty plugged in. So it'd be great to have Ross on with us.
Let's start with what's going down and the coaching search. Tight ends coach, still unnamed for BYU. Offensive line coach, unnamed officially. But as we talked about last week and the last couple of weeks, the buzz is around TJ Woods out of Georgia Southern, who just finished up their bowl game. And so, you know what? If we should hear yay or nay officially in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I respect that. You know what? He's got a bowl game to coach. So let's just leave the guy alone, right? And let him focus on finishing out with these players. Heck, we've had players quit before bowl games or even before last games. And I'm not naming names.
And we're not happy about that.
And it's like, I think it's appropriate that he gives all his effort to that. But my understanding is he's a very good recruiter. It'll be really good to have another guy on the offensive side that's a really good recruiter and dynamic. He's coached a lot of good offensive linemen. His path crossed with Kalani at Oregon State.
Right.
Because remember, he coached at Utah State with Gary Anderson. He was at Wisconsin and had multiple NFL dudes that he brought into Wisconsin. Then at Oregon State. And Georgia Southern's been really good offensively and have had some good offensive linemen. So his reputation is that he is a guy that has an edge, which we've all been saying, give us a guy with an edge, right?
And some accountability.
High accountability.
Yeah.
Yet, when he gets into guys, the word is that he can get into his guys, but he has a way of having them understand that he cares about them, and everything he's doing is to make them better. And so when he gets into them, he's very quick to put his arm around them and tell them that, hey, I'm doing this because this is how good you are. I want to get the best out of you. And everybody we talk to says he does a great job of that. That's a must for an O-line coach, I feel like. You got to be a tough guy, but the guys have to know that it's their best interest you have in mind while you're being tough on them. So we'll see. Lots of great things being said about TJ Woods.
Gerald from Fresno, welcome to the Wise Guys. I'm curious to see if he's also going to be the running game coordinator. And if that's the case, that's good because BYU needs one.
Right.
And we'll see. And that's a natural position, the line, running backs. You work with Harvey and your tight ends coach.
Which is still to be determined, yeah.
And so I think that'll be an important thing.
Yes. So.
And now it's about getting guys.
Yeah.
And Wednesday, we're going to get some guys.
And getting guys, and then once you get them in, develop them. And for BYU, they've had success in the past with recruiting guys like Brady Christensen, and let's talk about the last two big-time guys. Brady Christensen and
Blake Freeland,
right? And what was the common denominator? They're kind of long, athletic, big-frame guys that played football and basketball. So you knew they had great feet, great hands, and really athletic. And when you look at it in high school, you're like, wow, that looks like an NFL tight end. Well, they look like an NFL tight end when they're 18. And if they look like an NFL tight end when they're 17 and 18, because NFL tight ends when they're 17 and 18 look like 205-pound guys, right? They look like Dennis Pitta did when he came here. Then you grow them into 310-pound monsters, and that's kind of been the formula for BYU. So let's watch and see if they get some long athletic dudes, some guys with some size with a frame that they can build on, and then they develop these guys into NFL guys. Remember Brady Christensen started. The problem was we were so thin when we brought Brady in.
Yeah.
We were starting him at left tackle as a freshman, and he weighed 255 pounds.
And then he grew up.
And now he's 310 pounds.
Out.
And he is a monster. Right?
Here's my Blake Freeland moment. Yesterday, I'm checking my phone because I got the Colts kicker on my fantasy team. And I lost to my son-in-law yesterday. I'm not happy. No. It's going to take me a couple of days.
I lost. I'm out.
And so anyway, I'm looking at the Colts thing, and I'm going, hey, I wonder if Freeland's playing. All of a sudden, a little bleep comes up in the play-by-play. It was a false start. Freeland.
No.
I go, he's in the game, making a contribution. And the Colts won. And then they got.
See, and Blake played quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
And so that shows you how athletic he was, right? It's 6'7", 6'8", and he was like 240 in high school, and he's a 315-pound monster playing left tackle in the NFL. And so they're looking, and you know what? It's interesting because some of these guys they're recruiting, you go get great athletes, and then you figure out where they're going to play. There's a tight end I know that they're recruiting that they've had conversations with saying, listen, we think you're a phenomenal tight end, but if it doesn't work out at tight end, we think you can put 20 pounds on and be a stellar defensive end, right? And so you go recruit great athletes that are long and athletic and physical and strong, and know that you can grow them in your program. That's what you're looking for in your high school class.
So the early signing day is Wednesday, December 20th, 2 days from today. It feels like it's a defensive class already because we've seen a lot of movement on social media about the defensive guys that Jay Hill's bringing in. We do know from social media today that former Texas Tech commit Danny, and I want to say Saili announced he announced he was flipping his commitment from the Red Raiders to BYU after a weekend visit, and this is a kid that could be a starter on August 31st against Southern Illinois on the defensive line.
Remember we were talking about BYU needs guys that are just block eaters up front that can demand a double team, and that's this guy. And so there's a couple of these that as next week rolls out, one I know that they're recruiting heavily out of Arizona, like that we're going to go, okay, here we go.
These are the guys.
These are the guys. These are the kinds of guys that can go play inside and play that D tackle and just eat blocks up, not allow those double teams to get off of them, have to stick with them where they kill you. And that allows BYU's linebackers to run free. Yeah. And that's the idea. And so I said it's my number one priority for this football team was to strengthen themselves on the D-line. And I'm hearing that when by the time they're done with the transfer portal, because there's some news there, and by the time they're done with the high school recruiting class, I think we're going to go, okay, we got the makings of a core now to really build that defensive line over the next couple years into what we expect it to be to make them dominant defensively.
Also hearing today around the social media world, and some of these things like on Sports Nation, we can't really talk about it.
Here we can talk about
it. Here we can talk about it on the Wise Guys. But the former Baylor and USF quarterback Gary Bohannon is said to be, if you follow the Twitterverse, heading to BYU. There's been a lot of talk about that. Nothing official, but he would have 1 year of eligibility. And reaction has been, what, really? We're not getting a 9-star guy, and everyone else is getting 9-star guys, and we're not paying out, and all this stuff. But here's what matters to me. We get a quarterback who can, if it's going to be Jake Retzlaff, a guy who can back him up. If it's going to be a starter, it's a guy who Retzlaff can back up and continue to
Ryder Burton can develop underneath,
yeah.
right? Because we always forget about Ryder Burton, and we forget about Cade, who's in here, Finnegan,
and there's another kid they're going to sign,
right? And they're going to get another one in the freshman class, right?
Yeah,
that's a position that is so hard to project in college, even from a lower level to P5 level, but certainly from high school to P5, the hardest one to project. How many we've seen number 1 overall recruits in the country at that position never make it.
No. So what matters to me?
And we've seen guys that weren't on anybody's radar. Let's say Steve Young,
Ty Detmer,
that go out and Steve Young's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Was anybody like? People weren't going, hey.
He was like 7th string here.
Because Steve Young kind of ran a lot of option and run stuff. He's a great athlete. And when BYU recruited him, they're like, well, he's a phenomenal athlete. If it doesn't work out at quarterback, he's going to be a great something else, which he would have been, a great anything, right? So you just can't project who's going to be great.
Ben Olsen, Tanner Mangum, all these guys came in with. So what I'm looking for, and if it's Bohannon, great. I just want someone who can run Aaron Roderick's offense. If you can run the offense and the rest of the team does their stuff, you're preparing for a bowl game right this week. You can actually score points and win games. You can do it with a 9-star or a 10-star or a 4-star, whatever it is you hold out as the ultimate judge of whether a kid can do it or not, or just somebody who can. And if you can run down the field and score and win games. That's really what we want.
And what do we remember about Bohannon? Because remember, BYU played against him.
Right.
What we remember about him is big arm that can make all the throws. Mobile that can run around. Could actually run RPO, zone read stuff, and keep the ball and cause you problems. Very athletic. Strong. Like physically built strong. Maybe able to take running a little bit and not worry about so much about getting injured. So when you just think about those things, and he's been pretty good at taking care of the football, which is really important. That's a premium after this last season with BYU. Now, Jake, I would expect him to grow up tremendously from this last season and what he learned as a red shirt before this next season in being able to take care of the football. Because if he can't play. You can't play that position if you can't take care of the ball, period.
Yeah.
You can be the most talented guy in the world. If you can't not fumble or throw picks, cannot play.
No matter if you're in college or in the pros.
Right.
They'll find somebody else.
Can't play. But from 1 year to the next, we typically, like first year at this level, you see a massive improvement in that area. With all the other skills that Jake brings, if he can take care of the football, he could be the guy. But you have to recruit over the top of quarterbacks every single year because you just don't know who's going to turn out, and you have to have depth.
Yeah, and bummed that if it is Bohannon that he just has the 1 year. Be nice if it was 2.
Yeah, 2 would be better. I said I'm not a fan of one and dones.
Yeah.
At that position. Like if you have a phenomenal rush end that was at G5 at Fresno or San Diego State that had 11 sacks last season, and they're a grad transfer. Oh, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Because you can just turn him loose and just say go. But at that position.
I mean, all you have is you have Southern Illinois, you have SMU, and Wyoming, and those might be reversed, but you have those 3 games to get ready for your gauntlet.
It's hard for a quarterback to learn a brand new offense. So, and outside the echo chamber says, I have yet to see the 1 year rental really work out.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen the 1 year rental work out at other positions. Eddie Heckard was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Cam was phenomenal. Those corners were great.
And remember, Keaton was 5-2, playing injured.
Right.
Before that went south.
But it's hard to quarterback. And
sure.
He wasn't a perfect fit for the offense, which is a shame. I feel like could have tailored a little bit better. So hey, I agree to a certain extent with the outside the echo chamber on that one. And I'll tell you something that's making me feel really jealous right now is who's that just said there in Singapore?
Eric. Our friend Eric from Singapore, 85 and sunny.
Come on, Eric.
Enjoy it over there. Enjoy that.
We feel good. We feel good for you. And after you just heard me describe the smog, and you're going to throw that at us?
Yeah, thanks.
I want to be with Eric.
Ed's in St. George on the Wise Guys. Let's do some news and notes before we bring in Jimmer as our first guest tonight. Aiden Robbins, Isaac Rex, Ryan Rico, all have declared for the NFL draft since we were last together.
And the only one that surprises me a little bit is Aiden Robbins.
Yeah,
I expected Isaac Rex too. He's been coming back from that injury. He needs to move on and see if he can stay healthy. Rico, what are you gonna do? He's an NFL guy. Like he's gonna make a roster. He's got the biggest leg in college football. I feel like Aiden needed to come back and stay healthy to improve his stock, because when you're going in like I can't imagine him getting drafted. So he's gonna be a free agent because of the injury and the lack of play. And that's a long shot. When you're a free agent, it's a long shot.
Yeah.
And I felt like
But Chris Brooks was a long shot.
Yeah, and Chris made it.
Tyson Williams, a little bit of a long shot.
I mean, Jamal and Tyler were not long shots.
No, they were drafted, but even that 6th round, but they had to stay in.
When you draft running backs, it's still not easy, but you got a better shot. And there's not a lot of first round draft pickers. But I just thought he had a chance to come back, new line coach. I think they're going to be much better offensively next year and go rush for 1,000 yards and get drafted. But
after he announced he's going out, Miles Davis had him coming back.
He's coming back, exactly.
So a chance for Davis to get bigger and stronger and have a breakout season. Center Connor Pay, since we were last together, announced he's coming back. Yeah, that's big.
Pretty vocal about how he was feeling about it. Like once there was a coaching change and some of the guys moving on that were on that line, he feels really, really good about the core that's coming back and about this new O-line coach, and said based on all of these changes, because he was thinking about going or transferring. He's like, nope, I'm back now.
Yeah.
So that tells you a lot about how he's feeling about this offense from the inside.
Tyler Batty was on the show last week. He's coming back. Also named first team All Big 12 defensive end by Pro Football Focus. If you want to see the Batty interview, go to ysguys.com. It was great. It was great.
Yeah,
Batty and Connor Pay, those guys are honest.
Yeah.
And they tell you how it is.
Well, and the nice part about Batty is having him have a chance to come back one more year in this offense, new technique that he just learned this last year, with maybe some improved talent inside of him. And I think they're going to be really aggressive again next year. He has a chance to really improve his stock. And he feels like I feel like he got way better this last year, and I think he still has a chance to get even better and be really good and have a really good shot in the NFL.
Big 12 football media days moving to Las Vegas next summer and the following summer due to scheduling conflicts with AT&T Stadium in Arlington.
You and I are okay with that.
Yeah, Vegas is awesome. It's close. Big 12 football schedule. for 2024 for this fall. It's going to be released in mid-January.
It's not going to be like last year where we keep saying it month after month, right?
They've said mid-January, even this week. A couple of athletic directors also confirmed it. And we anticipate the BYU-Utah game to be restored to its proper place.
Let's hope.
On Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep.
So we should know in the middle of next month, so just a few weeks away.
Yep, that's great. Hey, how about the news on Elisa Tuiaki, former BYU assistant coach?
Great stuff.
He's the new D-line coach at Oregon State. This is his second stint there with the Beavers. He coached the D-line there when Gary Anderson was the head coach, and Kalani was there as the D coordinator back in 2015. So Sataki brought him to Provo when he took the head job at BYU. Really happy. Elisa Tuiaki is one of the good guys, like one of the best guys you're ever going to meet. And we're really hoping for him to have great success. I don't know what's going to happen with Oregon State.
Yeah, no one does, but they're not going to quit.
No.
And so it's a great job
it's
for
a story.
him.
And you know what? They've been really good the last couple of years. So let's see, how it goes for him. We're just keeping our fingers crossed and wishing the very, very best to Elisa.
Men's basketball is 10-1, AP top 25 up to 17. Net rank is 4. It goes Houston, Arizona, Purdue, BYU, then UConn. So just think about that.
Yeah, just think about that for a minute.
Ken Palm ranking is 5. I wrote a story in the Deseret News today about their ability to distribute the basketball, and passing up a good shot for a better shot has led to this renaissance. Last January, they were 92 in the net. And here at the end of December, they're 5 with the same guys, more or less.
Yeah, and we talk about a year later. We're talking about, hey, Tyler Battery in this defense a year later. Some of these other players that have a chance on that defensive scheme to be in the second year of the defensive scheme. Transfers that came last year that have another year, right? Jake Retzloff.
Yeah.
This is what's happened with Jackson Robinson. Is this even the same dude? He's so confident. He knows where things are coming. Like, he was an athlete last year, but now he understands what he's supposed to do, where his shots come from. He's playing with so much confidence. The guy that's just a renaissance man to me is Waterman.
Noah Waterman, yeah.
My goodness. That's not the same guy. And Mark Pope has told us he's not the same guy on or off the floor. And he is phenomenal. Richie Saunders just got better. Dallin Hall just got better. They just progressed and were further removed from missions, right?
Yeah.
Atiki Aliatiki is way better than he was last year. His offensive skills improved dramatically. He's playing more minutes without fouling.
The whole operation, even the coaching has been better.
Yeah, and then the newcomers, how about Ali Khalifa?
He'll be number 1 in the country after Friday night's game in assists to turnover.
This dude's a revelation passing the basketball. He is something.
He's a lot of fun.
Danny Ainge told us before the season started, wait till you see this guy pass. I was like, oh, yeah, he looks like he's really out of shape. And he was. He's lost like 20 since then. And he's still losing some weight and getting in shape. But Danny's like, no, he's like an elite level passer with a sense of where to go.
He's got 21.
So good.
21 straight assists without a turnover.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a turnover in 5 games.
And Trevin Nell was hurt all last year. Yeah. They get him back, and he's shooting with confidence, just shooting it lights out and playing solid defense. And the thing that's fun. So we talked with Dutch after the San Diego State game, and he told us some things. I loved our visit with Jonas Hayes from Georgia Southern when he said to us, it's one thing. This team can really shoot it, he said. And it's one thing because most teams that when you say they can really shoot it have 2 guys or 3 guys and maybe 2 on the floor at one time. And you're like, okay, don't help off of those guys. He says there's times on the floor for BYU when they have 5 guys on the floor that you can't help off of. How are you supposed to defend that?
What if we had 5 gymmers?
Oh, I'll take 5 gymmers.
Bellarmine on Friday, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, ESPN Plus. Blaine, Spencer, and myself will be on the call. Let's bring in, speaking of Jimmer.
Yeah, I'll take one Jimmer
Our
again.
Pleasure to welcome back to the Wise Guys, one of the most beloved athletes in BYU history, who USA Basketball just named its 3-on-3 Male Athlete of the Year, the great Jimmer Fredette, from his home in Colorado. It looks like you're in some kind of spaceship. It's like you could be orbiting the Earth from a capsule. Where are you at?
I am just in my office, not the capsule, but it's my wife told me if we're going to do your office in the new house, we're going to do it big and we're going to make it nice for Zoom calls. And she made her promise. So it's great.
You need to demand this stuff like Steve Young did for ESPN. I was over to his house. He made them come in and retrofit his whole office with like 2 moving remote cameras and this whole like TV set in his office so he could just do it all from the office.
Yeah, see, I'm not there yet.
You will be.
Maybe one day. But I will say this. You guys don't want 5 gymmers on the same team. There's not enough basketballs around, right? I don't know who's going to be passing, playing defense, all that stuff. But
so
I get your point.
There would be a fight over who had to throw the ball in because one of the 5 gymmers would have to be out of bounds.
Exactly. We can't have that problem.
I've been really impressed. I'm wondering, and you came on the air with us this last week and did pre and halftime and post with us. This team seems to kind of be without ego when it comes to that, which is really remarkable in today's basketball. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think there's a couple different things, right? So they're unselfish. They like each other off the floor. And I think that translates to on the floor. They don't care who's scoring at what time. They see that that's a successful plan for them. So they're buying into that system, right? They're seeing that. Sharing the ball, being unselfish, getting to around 20 assists per game is something that is working for them. That formula is doing really well. So because of that, they're bought into it. So if they're seeing a guy that's open, they're going to make that extra pass. But then you have to have guys that can make those shots. And we have a team of guys that can make those shots. They're really good at catching and shooting the basketball, which is a skill you have to have. But we have 4, 5, 6 of those guys that can actually catch, shoot the ball, and make it at a high level. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but being unselfish and being able to make those shots are obviously key.
The chemistry of your senior year and the chemistry of this team is now 10-1, which matches the best start, matches your best start, which is the best start since '87 when they went 17-0 or so. But do you sense a similarity in the chemistry? The athletes and how you scored points and how this team scores points is a little bit different, but it takes something special to go 10-1.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, the thing about them is they are consistent. And I think that the chemistry off the floor can translate, like I said, onto the floor. But the fact of the matter is that these guys have been playing together now for 2 or 3 years. And I think that helps, right? Like when you are able to get full seasons under your belt together, that's only going to help progress and have that trust once you get onto that floor. So the fact that some of these guys have been playing together for 2 and even 3 years together, that just helps a ton. So I think that's something that's really important. And then also Coach Pope has done a really great job of being like, hey, this is what your role is. This is what I want you to do when you're on the court. And that person is buying into that specific role because it's something that is not difficult in today's day and age when you have NIL and you have all this stuff. And it's like, hey, this is a me thing. If I score the most points, I'm going to make the most money off the court. So to be able to have this type of camaraderie with this team, seeing that if they play well, now they're number 5 in net rating and playing extremely well, they're all going to be able to eat because of it, and they're all going to be able to get that NIL stuff because of this. So it's not easy to buy in that way, but they're doing a great job.
Jonas Hayes, the head coach for Georgia Southern, Dave and I were shooting around practice and we were talking about this team, and he said the thing that is interesting about them, they all these shooters, and he goes, and then I go watch the tape on the defensive end. And somehow, Mark has these guys bought in that they also have to defend really hard. And he said, that doesn't always go together when you got that many shooters that they'll actually buy in and defend as a team as hard as this team defends. How rare is that to have a team that shoots the way BYU does and still want to defend on the other end?
Yeah, it's the makings of a championship team, right? Like you literally have to do both ends if you want to be a complete championship team. You can be great at one end of the floor and make it far and still do really well. But if you look at the NBA champions, the NCAA champions, they usually are almost always top 10 in offense and defense, right? And that's just the way that it works because you have to have a collective unit. It's a two-way game. So we understand that you got to have guys that sacrifice on the defensive end, the offensive end. So they're full of guys that are 3-and-D guys, which is like perfect for what NBA teams are looking for at this point. They're looking for guys that can catch and shoot and then play defense on the other end. And we have a bunch of guys that can do that, but have length and can kind of deflect passes. But then, defense is about buying in on that other end of the floor, being able to just buy into a system. So even if you're not great individually on the defensive end, if you buy into a system, know where you're supposed to be, know where your help is coming from, you become exponentially better just by knowing where you're supposed to be, and these guys know where they're supposed to be.
Jimmer Fredette is on the Wise Guys live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com. So you were here with us earlier in the week in Provo doing some studio stuff for BYU TV and ESPN Plus, and we look forward to having you join us out on the floor calling games. And I know we're working on that. But what was it like to be on the other end of our basketball coverage instead of having the camera on you on the floor? You're in the booth or in the studio, and you only have 20 seconds to say something, that's really good. It's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely different. But I enjoyed it. I had such a great time. You're just kind of shooting it with a bunch of friends and hanging out and talking basketball. And it's something that I feel comfortable doing. I've obviously played for a long time, played in a BYU uniform for a long time. So I kind of know what those guys are going through. And to be able to be there with Jerem and Tyler, who've been doing it for a little while, obviously Jerem is great at just driving the conversation. So it makes it easy for us to just kind of feed off of him and be able to kind of just talk basketball. So I did my homework, watched some Denver games and watched obviously a bunch of BYU games, and tried to really get into it and do my homework so that I was prepared coming into it. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was fun to watch the games and kind of dive into the schemes and what they're trying to do and then be able to talk about it. So I'll be doing a lot more of it, and I'm excited to get out there with you guys too.
Good. Yeah, we see a day where you cross the street and come down and sit down next to us, and we'll get after it as it happens. It's a rush, but it'll be great to tap into your knowledge, and of course, basketball fans will love it as well. So we look forward to that. How has this start changed how you think this BYU team might do in the Big 12?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, I think it's changed most people's opinion of BYU. I knew that they would be better this year just because of the sheer fact that the guys are older. Yeah. And like I said, it's the experience helps. Going through battles helps. Whether you win it or you lose it, as long as you take away from the game something positive, you're going to move in the right direction when you have veteran guys that want to win and are leaders. So I was excited about the year. I didn't think it was going to start off like this. Right. I don't think most did. But now you look at a team that, can compete in the Big 12. And, I'm not saying that they're, going to win the Big 12. I don't know if we all believe that's going to happen, but I think they can be around a 500 team in the Big 12. And if you do that, you're doing really well and you're making the tournament. Like if you're a 500 team in the Big 12, you're making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
that's how difficult it is.
Yeah, with this preseason, Jimmer, if they went 500 in the league, because nobody expected them to, and they should not lose the rest of the preseason before they play Cincinnati. If they went 500, they'd probably be a 4 seed. That's nuts. You can go 500 in this league and because if you went 500 in the WCC, you're not even going to the NIT.
It's different.
It's a whole different deal, right?
It's much different. You're playing against St. Mary's Gonzaga's every night, right? In the Big 12. So that's going to be the difference. That's what I look for, because I do think that they can be around a 500 team in the Big 12, but I will say that there's going to be a time where they're probably going to lose 2-3 straight just because of the beast of the schedule. Yeah. At that point, you really have to focus in on being like, hey, it happens. This is what happens during this Big 12 run. Pretty much every team goes through it in the Big 12. Now we have to focus on the next game. We can't let that snowball and be like, all right, get your confidence down. Be like, I don't know if we belong here. That's not the case. It happens to everybody. You just have to keep focusing on the next game, because that next game is your biggest game. And the more wins you can rack up in the Big 12, the better. So it's really important that they have that mindset going in, being, hey, if you lose 1, if you lose 2, if you lose 3, it's okay. Just keep pushing.
A couple more questions with the great Jimmer Fredette. One thing bigger than the Big 12 is the big world. Paris Olympics coming up, 3-on-3 basketball to represent Team USA. What does that mean to you? Have you been able to kind of wrap your mind around it?
Honestly, not yet. It still kind of hasn't hit me yet. It's still a little bit of ways away, and we just got done with our season. So now I'm taking a little bit of time to relax and kind of hang out with the family. Obviously, we got the holidays coming up. So I'm trying to just, enjoy that. But I know in the back of my mind, every single day, I'm thinking about, the Olympics, right? And trying to picture myself on the floor, under the tent with the stands around it outside, and just all the people that are going to be there, the buzz, the feeling of it. I mean, I've played in the World Cup. I played in the Pan Am Games. I played in some big tournaments with the USA on my chest for 3-on-3, but I know that the Olympics is going to be such a different experience even from those. And to be able to have an opportunity to play with, Team USA in the Olympics and walk in the opening ceremonies and do all these amazing things will just be a dream come true, because it's something that, I've watched my whole life. Ever since I've been growing up, I've loved watching the Olympics. So it's crazy.
Yeah, former Cougar, NBA lottery pick, international superstar Jimmer Fredette on the Wise Guys with us tonight. Yeah, I can't imagine. This is going to be awesome. You've been traveling around? You mentioned you've had USA on your chest, and you've been traveling around playing in 3-on-3 tournaments as you've prepared for this all over the world. Have you had any Jimmer moments, like in far off places with with BYU fans and stuff?
I'll tell you, every single place that I've gone to, and it does not matter. We've been to Mongolia, we've been to Macau, China, we've been to Hong Kong, we've been to Cebu, Philippines, we've been to Santiago, Chile, we've been to Kosovo. We literally everywhere. It's pretty crazy. I have yet to be at a tournament where I have not seen a BYU shirt there.
That's
not
awesome.
Not one tournament, not even in Mongolia, not even it does not matter. I have seen BYU, and at probably 4 or 5 of the tournaments, I've seen the missionaries. They've kind of just walked around and glanced and were like, hey, there's a basketball tournament. And then I see them and they'd be like, oh, this is great. So it's been an amazing experience. BYU is truly worldwide. It obviously a lot to do with the church, and it's incredible the support that I continue to still have 12 years removed from BYU. To be able to have that is really, really special. I don't think many universities can offer that.
Now, listen, you get a medal. I don't care if it's bronze, silver, or gold.
That would be so
global
fun.
Jimmermania is going to be something.
And you scattered it out. We can medal in this thing, right? You guys can go take gold, can't you?
We definitely have a shot. We're up there with the best teams in the world. Obviously, we were going in number 2 ranked. Serbia is number 1, but 8 teams get into the show. And how they do it is you play each team once. So, and then at that point they'll seed you. The bottom 2 teams will be out of the tournament. The top 2 teams will get a bye to the semifinals, and then the other 4 will play in a quarterfinals to get to the semis. So if you can get in the top 2, you're already in the medal rounds. So
yes,
that's huge. So hopefully we can do well in those 7 games and come out and do well and be able to get into that semifinal round right away. And then it's 1 game and you're into the gold medal match. So, I mean, yeah, it's exciting to think about. And
it's good TV. It's not like curling, it's exciting. And I tell you what, you with space, and I think Fran Fraschilla said it the other day, you with space, it's tough to stop you anyway. But you with space, like a couple of 4 or 5 fewer guys out on the floor, it just seems to fit your game. And I think the world's ready to watch you do that.
It's absolutely great. I mean, the thing about it is it's such a fast pace. I mean, my wife Whit, she loves watching sports. She does. She's a big sports fan. She watches the BYU football, basketball, whatever it is. She loves it. But she doesn't usually watch games too often unless I'm watching with her or I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll be at a tournament somewhere, or I'll be, somewhere in another country, and there'll be a 3-on-3 tournament going on, and she'll be sitting there watching the 3-on-3 tournament without me in it, without any rooting interest or anything like that.
That's awesome.
Because it's really fun to watch. It honestly is, because it's such a quick pace. It's only 10 minutes or first to 21. And so she, you watch it, and kids can watch it. It's very easy to consume, and just it's short pace. So, I mean, it's super fun, and I think people will like it if they watch it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Jimmer, Dave's in trouble now because people are hitting him on the chat asking what's wrong with curling. Like, he dissed curling, and people are on him already.
Listen.
Hey, I'm one of those guys that watches every single sport in the Olympics, literally everything. So we have the U.S. curling. I think it's the U.S. curling facility in Littleton, Colorado. So there's so many people that are enjoying curling in this area. So yeah, watch what you say.
For the record, Jimmer and I are curling fans. It's only Dave that hates curling.
Only Dave hates curling. The thing with curling is you can't tell if you're watching it live or in slow motion. It's just the same thing. All right, Jimmer, let's finish with this one.
Love it.
It's Christmas week. I'm sure there's a holiday buzz. I saw you tweeted out some videos singing Christmas carols with the kids yesterday, which was great. Let's wrap with this. What is your favorite childhood Christmas memory?
Childhood Christmas memory. well, the one specific one that I could think of, my parents always did a great job of, getting the presents under the tree. And I remember one specific year I asked for an infusion basketball. And I don't know if you guys remember what an infusion basketball is.
I remember, yes.
It's literally a basketball that's indoor, outdoor, but it had a built-in pump in the basketball. And for some reason, I wanted that thing so badly. And I was hoping, and I woke up Christmas morning, and that was my big gift. I got an infusion basketball, and I used that thing for 10 years afterwards. Like, leather was torn off, everything. So that was my favorite gift that I got from my parents when I was younger. Just loving that. And then one other quick thing, we always had at my mom's house, we had my brother, my sister, and me. And there were 5 stockings up there, but there was only one green stocking. Everything else was white. So we were always fighting over who was going to get that green stocking. And I called it this year. Even I don't know if my brother and sister
you guys still
think
get
about
it
anymore. But
you still have it.
You're in Colorado and you called it?
I called it early this year. It was like October.
It's like calling a shotgun, right? Like shotgun,
yes.
a green
like
stocking.
Exactly. I got the green stocking. I called it early, for sure got it this year. I think I've had it like 5 years consecutive because I call it super early, and it's the way it works. But I'm also the youngest, so I think I had they allow me.
I hope that works out
Jim,
for you.
People always they don't know what true white Christmas is like because they didn't grow up where you and I grew up. And Jimmer and I know what snow is like for Christmas where we grew up, and that's the one thing I miss. I feel like we don't have enough white Christmases around here. Back home in upstate New York where we grew up, it seemed like we always had a white Christmas and a white winter all winter long, right?
It was white / like dark brown and black towards the end of it, right?
Yes.
So, because it just stayed there the whole time.
Listen,
so it started off pretty and nice, and then it would just turn dark quickly.
We're guaranteed Rudolph's going to come through because someone's got to get through the smog.
That's right. We got smog here. We got smog for sure.
Yeah. Hey, we're proud of you. We look forward to seeing you soon here on the basketball coverage end with us on ESPN Plus and BYU TV. So give our best to Whitney and the kids. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. This was fun. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Jimmer.
The great Jimmer Fredette getting ready for the Olympics, and I think they're going to go over and win the gold medal. And that's not just saying I hope they do, because I hope they do.
No,
but they've done well enough in these tournaments to be legit going over there. And I know Serbia's tough, but they can be beat.
And those are the 2 best teams in the world right now, and they've been playing in these tournaments. And so the U.S. is, as Jimmer pointed out, the number 2 seed going in. Serbia's the number 1 seed. Oh, they can get Serbia.
Yeah.
So
just get Jimmer the ball.
Yes.
Our next guest is in the business of getting kids ready for college football. Before he was a trainer, he caught 80 passes for 981 yards and 3 touchdowns at BYU between 2011 and 2014. Our pleasure to welcome Ross Oppo to the Wise Guys. Hey, Ross, you just missed Jimmer, and your careers just missed each other, didn't they? When you arrived, he was done, wasn't he, at BYU?
I think we had a couple of years there, maybe 1 year there together.
2011, maybe?
From 10 through 14.
10 through 14.
So do you remember Jimmermania? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It was huge on campus. I remember seeing Jimmer a few times in the SAB, and I swear he had some bodyguards around him at the time. I think we only seen him like a few times in the SAB, but we would run into each other sometimes. So it was pretty crazy at the time. I think like social media had just kind of got going. But yeah, it blew up, and it was awesome time.
Look, you share that
to be at BYU.
You share the headlines with Jimmer on the Wise Guys tonight.
That's right.
You guys are equals
that's
on
awesome.
the Wise Guys.
When I seen you put the post up, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Hopefully, I get to say hi to him. But sounds like he was on and he was done.
Yeah, he just came barely though. But like you missed him by 30 seconds. So.
Oh man, that's a bummer. I'll have to catch him next time.
Richard's on our live stream from Panama. So tonight we got Singapore and Panama and folks all around the world ready to listen to Ross, what you have to say. And when you watch Puka Nacua doing what he's doing as a rookie in the NFL, as a guy who gets players ready to chase their dreams, what do you think of Puka's season?
Man, it's unreal. Like every time you think, okay, he broke this record, he breaks another one. And it's just like, sometimes we see things like this happen, and you just think like, I don't know if there's any more that he can do. And we talked, I think we had spoke when the football team was like halfway through the season. And I think at that time, I think Puka just was just getting a whole bunch of catches. He broke a couple records, and then like a few weeks later, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden he's like passing 1,000 yards receiving, and I'm just like, what else can this guy do? And so, I think the Pro Bowl is next. And man, he's just awesome. It's just awesome to see, and then he's just a great guy off the field. Super happy for him and all the success he's been getting.
But when you watched him here, Ross, we all knew he was good, and we all said, "Oh yeah, he's an NFL guy. Like he's going to play in the NFL." But I don't know that any of us thought, "Oh, he's going to be one of the elite receivers in the NFL, and probably in the Pro Bowl as a rookie." I mean, did you see that in him? What did you see from his college game that made you think that perhaps he could be what he is right now in the NFL?
Yeah, from his college game. I mean, when they need to score, for example, like Boise State, what do you do? Just throw the ball up and let your playmaker go make a play. I kind of seen him like balling out in the NFL, but as far as like Pro Bowl, I just wasn't sure because, there's other guys on that team that are pretty good, and not to take anything away from Puka, but it's like rookies don't get the responsibility of motioning into a crack block or playing slot receiver, then going to outside receiver, and then coming in motion and getting a jet sweep. As a rookie, that's just a lot to put on a guy. And for Puka to go in there and be able to do these things like week one, that says a lot. And I got to work a lot with him, like just one-on-one. So I spent a lot of time with Puka, probably more time with him than anybody else that I've trained through my program. And there's a lot of years that we worked together, and I could honestly say like there's stuff that I've seen Puka do in training that I'm just like, this is unreal. Like I played with Cody, right? He's one of the best one of the best receivers in BYU history. And I'm just like, I just never seen anybody do anything like this. He just catches everything. He adjusts to the ball really well. His instincts are just crazy. He knows where people are at before they even get there. And it's just stuff like that. It's just like hard to guard. And it's fun to watch.
Spencer Linton was down in L.A. With Puka yesterday and had Puka on BYU Sports Nation earlier today, and you can go there and watch that interview. Same kid-like attitude of just happy to be where he's at and doing what he's doing. Ross, you're on the front lines when it comes to kids getting ready for college. What's impacting the process more, NIL, where kids can get paid, or the transfer portal where they can jump schools whenever they want if they don't get what they want right away?
I would say the transfer portal. NIL is like for certain people on a team. You have to be a certain guy. And I don't want to be a downer, but if you think you're going to get an NIL, that's huge. Unless you're a quarterback or, you're bringing something extra to the table, you're probably not. And so, guys that think they deserve something and they hit the portal, and nothing really comes of it, it's just like, it's you have to be a guy, right? And so I would say the transfer portal is huge. As I've talked to coaches and I've asked them like, hey, I have this 2024 high school kid. No, we're looking for somebody in the portal. Who do you have in the portal that's ready to go? And I think that's what the portal has to offer is guys that are developed. You don't have to put them through weights for a whole year. You don't have to redshirt them. These guys are just like ready to go. And I've seen coaches kind of go for those guys more so than the high school guys. I kind of feel bad for a lot of high school kids because, the portal's kind of taken over. So I would say the portal more so than NIL.
And you didn't have to deal with that when you were coming out. I didn't have to when I was coming out of high school. Your company is called Mile Wide Receiver, MILE Wide Receiver, based in Eagle Mountain, Utah. You work with receivers, running backs, and tight ends. What advice do you give to these kids when they're considering a program? Now, it's so different than what it was for you or for me when we were coming out. And so what do you talk to them about, and how do you help them prepare? And then what do you tell them when they're considering where they're going to go?
So people, they're like, why don't you tell this guy to go here or go there? And I'm like, that's not my job, right? My job is to give these guys good advice. And so I just wanted to say that to clear it up, because people think I send guys to colleges, and I don't. I help them, make a choice. I help them with the skill set. The biggest thing I tell guys is the development. Where can you go where your skill set is not only going to be, displayed at the full extent, but where are you going to go that's going to, where are you going to go where coaches are going to develop you, where the program's going to develop you, where it's going to take what you do to the next level. And then, once they find, the several schools they feel like they fit in, okay, now we can say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do after football? What do you want to major in? Stuff like that. Obviously, if you're a wide receiver, which is what I deal with, or tight ends, who's the quarterback that's coming in. And so the number one thing for me is like, where can you go to find that development? Because that's going to be what leads you to the NIL. That's what's going to lead you to the NFL, is, your development at the program.
I saw you take some heat on social media for sending some player to...
Wait, not sending, because he just told you he doesn't send them.
But this was the misnomer in social media that you sent them, I think, to the Utes or something about that. It's like, well, how could you betray your BYU roots by sending a kid? Well, you're in the business of being in business, and this is your business.
Yeah. I have guys from all over the place, and it just so happened that the tight end and I know which post you're talking about, which is why I said that.
Yeah.
The tight end that I had, he was at UCLA. He was one of the top recruits coming out of Utah, American Fork. One of the best tight ends to come out of this state, I think.
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to do something different. Ended up coming here. So, I just congratulated him, said I'm excited to watch him play at the U. And I think it was just taken a little bit differently. And then there's a couple other guys at the U that I'm helping that are in the portal currently. Yeah. That I'm helping them find a place.
Hey, sometimes BYU fans are a little sensitive, but they all are, no matter what team you're cheering for.
And Ross is a little bit like me. Like, you didn't grow up with a rivalry. You grew up down in Texas, and you didn't know anything about this. And when you get here, there's lots of guys that train together in the summer at different places, like at Ross's place or wherever it is, and they get along with one another, and the fans want to kill each other, and the players are actually respectful of one another and work out together, right? It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it, Ross?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the guys, they work out together, and then it's like they see the fans going back and forth, and then a Utah guy might have to tell us the fans like, hey, you guys just relax. He's a good guy. It's like the players on one level, the fans are just on a whole different level. It's pretty entertaining to watch.
I remember when Britton was playing up at the U, now with the Eagles, and playing. Britton would come down, and he was playing on a softball team down here in the summer with my son Gavin and with Danny Sorensen, with all these BYU guys. And people are like, what? Why are you letting that Ute on your softball team? And they're like, because he's been our friend forever.
He's fast.
He's really good. It's just crazy.
Former BYU receiver Ross Oppo on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com, all around the world tonight. The transfer portal is open until January 2nd. Then it's going to open again April 16th through April 30th. So far, BYU's receiving core has remained intact. Chase Roberts, Cody Epps, Parker Kingston, Darius Lassiter, Keelan Marion, all expected back. How do you feel about this group?
I think as the season went on, I know as the season went on, they just kept getting better and better. And it's just like when you bring in new guys, and we've seen this more so with the offensive line, right? When you're replacing guys and you're bringing, new guys in, and quarterbacks and receivers, it's like, it takes a while for these guys to get on the same page. It might take a few games for these guys to get on the same page. And I think a lot of people forget the chemistry part that goes into it. And it's like, you can have all of the talent, but if there's no chemistry, the talent really doesn't matter, because you're just not on the same page where, Max Hall and Dennis Pitta. Max, you just throw the ball up in the air and, have trust that Dennis was going to show up in the spot. And it's like things like that. And so I think the receivers going into this next season, they're just going to get better. They're just going to get better. I think the sooner, BYU decides on a QB or finds one, wherever they are in the process, those guys just need to start getting to work. But as far as the receivers being together, man, that's the best thing that they can have this offseason.
To that really solid group, they're adding former 4-star receiver Cody Hagan, and then Dominique McKenzie back from Church Missions. I know you're familiar with both of those guys. What do you expect from those guys? Of course, Hagan played at Corner Canyon, was a big star there. And then McKenzie out of Pineview, his brother was with the team this last year. Yeah. One of the fastest players in the history of the state of Utah, going to come join that receiving corps. What do you expect from those two as they join the program?
Speed. Yeah. More, the speed that's needed. I think, those two guys coming in, they're going to be able to push the pace, right, for the older guys and even some of the younger guys that are on the team. And I think, guys that come in that are fast and they're, Cody's pretty polished. Guys that come in and they're polished, it only makes, not only the team better, but especially like the core, the wide receiver core better. Because now, people got to figure out, like, what can I do, to not like overshadow his speed, but what can I do with myself, to show that I have, as much value as a guy I think he was running like a 10.500, something crazy.
Yeah, both those guys run 10.5. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's just like, what can I do to kind of put myself on that level, even though I don't have the speed and, the competitive greatness in the room is just gonna rise with guys that like Cody.
We asked Marcus, I was doing a pregame interview with him for game day during the season, Marcus McKenzie, that if the last slice of pizza was at the goal line and he and Dominique were 100 yards away, who would get that slice of pizza?
Yeah.
He thought he would. When talking to his dad wasn't quite sure.
Well, his dad said if it was 40 yards away, Dominique was like one of the fastest people, period, anywhere. And 40, and that Marcus might stretch out and get top end and get the 100, but it would be really, really close. That's a nice argument when you got two guys that fast, right?
Right. or it would depend on the pizza, what type of pizza it was, and then now you have different speeds when it comes to that.
Oh yeah, now you just raised the bar right there. Former Cougar Ross Oppo on the Wise Guys tonight. Back in 2009, he decommitted from Texas.
That's right.
To sign with BYU next fall. Texas is going to kick off in the SEC, and BYU is going to begin its second season in the Big 12. And then you got UCLA and USC, Washington, and Oregon. They're going to be over in the Big 10, which disintegrated the Pac-12. Is all this movement going to make college football stronger or weaker?
Oh man, that's a good question. I feel like the SEC is just going to be the SEC, regardless. It's hard for me to say. It sucks to see the Pac-12 kind of dissolve. But as long as they just keep the strength and the competition strong in each conference, I don't really see an issue. It's sad to see Texas, leave, but it's I think this shakeup here will kind of challenge teams, and bring out a new competitiveness. So it's hard to say if it's going to make it better or worse. I'm just always excited for football, regardless who's playing. To be honest.
Well, one thing we all can get excited about is the fact that this whole shakeup brings Utah and BYU back together on an annual basis as conference foes. What's your thought on that?
Oh, that's awesome. That's a game, that we stay up the night before, we wake up early for, whatever you want to say. That's an exciting game. I've been waiting for it. We've had how many years off? When was the last year?
Well, let's see. The last conference year would have been 13 years ago.
Yeah,
but the last game was 2 years ago when BYU beat them here.
Right.
But it has been like 6 or 7. It hasn't been an every year thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because like I said, we see the fans go back and forth, not so much like the players, but the fans, and it's like, why don't we just settle it? We're gonna play this year, so now they get to have their bragging rights after every year.
Oh yeah, and that's something.
Yes, it is.
I think it's going to be great. It's going to liven up Thanksgiving like it used to be, that we've forgotten about.
And as Ross and I pointed out, it's intense on the field because you want to beat your friends, but it's really intense in the stands. That's where the real intensity comes.
Oh, definitely. I'm excited for it. I'm definitely excited.
Ross, what you're about to participate in is in one of the Wise Guys traditions that we do with all our guests. It's called 5 Questions. This one's called 5 Questions for Ross. Blaine will ask him. We don't anticipate a lot of deep thought on this.
No, you just whatever pops in your head, you say.
Rapid fire responses. You ready?
Okay.
And it's very important stuff, like starting with number 1.
He seems somewhat hesitant. Like
he seems like he's nervous about this.
Sure what we're getting into.
But everybody's
I'm good to go.
Everybody's had to do it. Like Jimmer, the first time Jimmer came on, everybody had to do it. Governor Herbert had to do it.
I'm good. I'm always relaxed.
Danny Ainge was thinking about his answers. We're like, dude, this is only a 2-hour show.
Come on, let's go.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Your favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
Okay, I think that's our most popular one.
It's one of the great football movies.
Yes, it is.
It just is.
And I'm with you. That's my favorite as well. So, number 2, your favorite singer or band?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, Ross.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's hard because I know there's
like some Brian McKnight.
Brian McKnight, like back at 1, Brian McKnight.
Yep, definitely.
Man, he went old school. I had him pegged as a Drake guy.
No, he's going Brian McKnight.
But Brian,
I had a few old school names.
But Brian McKnight is old school. I'm very impressed with that one. Way to go.
Of the I don't know how many hundreds of interviews, this is the first Brian McKnight. So you're breaking new ground here on the show.
Nice.
Yeah, unforgettable that we should be together. I have to sing every week on the show, but that's it. Okay, your favorite breakfast cereal. This is important.
Honey Bunches of Oats.
Okay.
Nice. That's we've had that maybe once or twice before. Dave's is Captain Crunch, by the way.
Man.
It shouldn't shock you.
Just straight Captain Crunch, not even with the Crunch Berries. So, mine's Cinnamon Life, but I can respect Honey Bunches of Oats. Your favorite receiver, any level?
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss.
Let me tell you about Randy Moss. Remember that year he lit up the Cowboys when he was the Vikings on Thanksgiving?
He mossed multiple people in that
He was
game.
on my fantasy team that day. It was one of the greatest days in the history of the McCann Fantasy Football League. I think he had like 70 points. Because Dallas couldn't guard him, and who was it? Randall Cunningham just back up and just chuck it as far as he could.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, your favorite BYU memory, and I'm going to give it it doesn't have to be a football memory. Like any memory you had at BYU, football or not, we want to know what it is.
Man, I would probably say, meeting my wife there was awesome. Out of all the football stuff and school.
Ross, how did that go down?
Yeah, tell us about that.
So at the time, O'Neal Chambers, he was a receiver there from Florida, and then Kyle Vetnoy was my other roommate. O'Neal took us to go swimming, and my wife was there, and a couple other soccer girls were there. And, that's when we first met, and ever since then we just
did she have you at hello?
Yeah,
did she have you at hello?
Jessica, did she buy in right away?
Or did you have her at hello?
As soon as we walked into the gate, as soon as I seen her at the gate, she had me. I was like, that's a done deal. She's tall. She was an All-American, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is a done deal.
I love that.
Did you have to work at it?
Yeah, how much did you like? Was it a done deal for her, or did it take a little? Like you had to sell her a little bit.
Oh man, it took forever. I didn't know if she would ever fall for me, but I just stayed consistent at it. Same thing I tell the guys, right? You want something, stay consistent.
Stay after it, stay consistent.
That's words to live by.
You put the work in, right?
Put the work in.
Yeah, definitely had to put the work in.
How long did you date before you convinced her that you should get married?
Oh man, we dated. We almost dated for like a year and a half, maybe. Yeah, we dated for a while. because she was still playing soccer. I was still playing football. Yeah. And so it would have been a little, difficult to get married to, through it all. But we dated for a while. Now we have 2 girls.
That's awesome. I should know this. Where's she from? I forgot where she's from, Ross.
From Sandy.
So she's from Sandy. That's where at BYU is where a girl from Sandy can meet a boy from Texas, and they can live happily ever after, right?
Oh man, I never thought, but yeah, you're on point with that.
Yep.
How'd the engagement go down? What'd you do?
So I just told her I was going back home. And I actually didn't. Good thing they didn't have Find My Friends on the iPhone yet, or else she would have seen that I wasn't on an airplane. And then I just told her family, her best friends, to meet outside of a restaurant. And so, they all went out to eat, and then I just came around the corner. It wasn't anything too exciting at the time. Now, there's all these videos of cool things going on. Mine wasn't that cool, but it got the job done.
Good.
Well, we all outkicked our coverage, and we all, because we came to Utah, to BYU.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Kyle Van Noy. He's so far over his head with Marissa. And if he wasn't here, he would have never found her.
That's true.
Right? Kyle knows this. Kyle knows that Marissa's so far over his head. I'm surprised his nose doesn't bleed every day. He's so far over his head with Marissa. And frankly, we are too, Ross. So there you go.
We had Kyle on the show. We told him that too. And he didn't, he didn't deny it. He knows this is it. Hey, let's finish with a bonus question. So what's Christmas time like around the Oppo residence with your wife? Now a couple of kids. What do you like most about this time of year?
Oh man, watching my daughters open their gifts is like there's nothing like it. And it's like when you try to explain that to somebody that doesn't have kids, it's just hard to explain. But just watching them be grateful of the things they're getting, especially things I didn't get growing up or things I didn't have. Yeah. Just watching them to be able to get those things. And then, obviously I take time off. I make my own schedule. So I make sure and take a good amount of time off to spend with the family. That time is just irreplaceable.
That's awesome.
Ross, where can people go to get more information on how to get hooked up with training with your company?
They could just go to rossoppo.com, fill out one of the what do I call it? Not a questionnaire.
Is it like a profile application profile?
Yeah, like a profile application. That's what you would call it. They can go on there, fill it out. It'll go to my email, and then I just reach back out to them, or through social media, through my Twitter, at @rossalpo_easy.
Hey, we're proud of you. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll get you back on the show before we kick off in August. How's that?
Oh, I'm excited for that, definitely. And you guys have a Merry Christmas as well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Ross. Great to talk to you, brother.
Yeah. Hey, and say hi to Jessica for us.
For sure, will do. Thank you.
See you, man. Ross Oppo. He raises, trains. You want to go to college and you got skills. Here's a guy. Will Snowden's another guy that's been on the show. These are guys that can help you get to the next level.
And they're doing a lot of good things to help kids. And they pay attention. I know Ross does this. You mentioned Will does this. They pay a lot of attention to helping these kids be well-rounded too. So it's not just about, they coach them up on, here's the things you need to be doing off the field. And, and this is the mentality you need to have. And this is what you need to do in school. And so they're providing these kids with a focus on all the right things to help them progress and go live their dream and go play college football.
I think you said it best. There's a kid from Texas come to BYU and meet a girl from Sandy and live happily ever after.
Like Jimmer, a kid from upstate New York can come to Provo and meet a cheerleader
from Colorado,
and they live happily ever after. It's where a kid from upstate New York named Blaine can meet a cougarette from Utah, and they can live happily ever after.
There's like 10 million stories like that. That's great.
Every story's like that, and it's a great place. And all of us will go, the best thing that we ever did was that.
Michael from Katy, Texas is on the Wise Guys tonight.
All right.
Hey, let's get to the Cougar Board question of the week, and then we're going to jump into what's going on with a handful of other sports.
Yes.
If you got questions for us, lay them on us.
The chat.
This is the pre-holiday
We did answer
special.
like somebody asked, well, what's wrong with curling? We addressed that. John, I apologize for Dave's actions.
I don't even have enough time to talk about what's wrong with curling.
But somebody mentioned about Mackenzie and Dominique, and we talked about Dominique with Ross. So I think we've gotten everything that anybody's really asked right now. So anything you got, throw out there. Well, hopefully we can get to it.
All right, so here's the Cougar Board question of the week. And I think a lot of people are asking about this. And a lot of people are going to watch Friday night's game between BYU and Bellarmine for the answer. And if you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts daily. And when we're on there quite a bit too, and some people post nice things about us, and sometimes people post things that aren't. But
that's fine.
That's the world we're in, and we welcome it. So the question is from insider subscriber user named Dilbert. And here it is. You ready?
I'm ready for it.
Do you think there's any risk in the addition of Adams and Baker into the rotation? Marcus Adams is the freshman who transferred from Kansas, went over to Gonzaga, took a look, and came here. And he just got cleared by way of the court ruling that cleared everybody for the season who's waiting for a multi-transfer waiver. And then Dawson Baker, who transferred over from Irvine, who has had a foot issue all summer, fall, and is just now back to where he's healthy enough to make his debut, which he did the other night, scored 6 points.
And looked really good, by the way.
So that's the context of this. Do you think there's any risk that the addition of Adams and Baker into the rotation could disrupt the great chemistry that this team has? And what do you think needs to be done to minimize any such risk? And then Dilbert goes on, how difficult is it to make those changes without disrupting the chemistry? And whose minutes change the most with the return of those two, plus Foose as well? We expect Foose to be back in time for those first couple of opponents in the Big 12. January 6th, maybe. January 9th at Baylor, probably. So those are the loaded questions.
Yeah, you know what? And those are all... Like, I don't know that anybody knows the answers to all of that. And I think Mark Pope has some concern about the same things that Dilbert has some concerns about, right? Like, because the chemistry's been so good, and he's figured out the rotations, and everybody's not complaining. Even Jackson Robinson, who's the leading scorer on the team, is not complaining about coming off the bench, right? Because he's playing 24, 25 minutes off the bench, right? So you saw Dawson Baker and just got a little glimpse. Really skilled. If he's 100% healthy, he's a huge asset. And, you know, we've talked about this. Brian Dutcher from San Jose State told us he may be the best shooter on the team, which is crazy because this is a team full of shooters, right? Right. So you got to find minutes for him. Where do his minutes come? Just a little from multiple guys, right? A little from Trevin Nell, a little from Trey Stewart, you know, which Trey's not playing a ton of minutes right now, but a little from Trey Stewart.
A little from Dallin Hall because he can play the point. Yeah,
and so I don't think that anybody loses a bunch of minutes because he can kind of fill in and you can rotate him in.
Now, if he comes in and he's got a hot hand, then he stays in.
Then he stays in more minutes. Like you earn minutes on the floor by how you're playing, right? And that's a nice thing to have. And he's also a pretty good defender. So Foose, that's not that tough. Like Foose was already there. Atiki's minutes go down a little bit. He'll still come in and play some defense.
Khalifa will be affected a little bit, but you could put both of them on the floor the way he distributes the basketball.
And Khalifa could play the 5 and Foose could play the 4, which then that affects Waterman a little bit, right? But again, there's enough minutes to go around, and you're going to find minutes for Foose because he's a dominant force. When you throw the ball into the post to Foose, people have to double team. But what it does allow you to do is when you have different kinds of matchups, where you need to play more athletic out on the perimeter and you have to go guard teams out on the perimeter, you play Waterman a little bit more and Foose doesn't play as much, right? Or Tiki doesn't play as much. You play Khalifa who can chase out to the perimeter.
Where it gets tricky is with Adams.
Adams is the tricky one, and that's exactly right.
The thing with Adams is he's had that ankle injury, and so he's not in the kind of shape he wished he would be in. He's not in the kind of shape we will see him in. Right now, he just has had maybe 3 or 4 practices with the team.
He's not ready for extended minutes, right, Dave? I mean, we've watched him in practice.
But he's got a gift.
He is unbelievably explosive and strong. Meaning, he is a big dude that can get off the floor.
He's the kind of guy, and we don't say this often, but he's the kind of guy that won't be here for 4 years. And it's not because he's going to another school. It's because he's going to go to the NBA. Now, is it a year? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? Nobody knows. But this is why, one, they're being careful with him, and this is why they're so excited to have him, because he is a Colin Chandler type.
Right. And
talent,
they get Colin back next year.
Game-changing type player, and we don't want to put too much on him, but we can tell you this. We've been in practice.
Yeah.
We watched him shoot. We've watched him dunk. We've watched him smile and get around.
I thought he was going to pull the rim out of the backboard on one of his dunks.
And he screams, this guy's going to be good. It's going to take some time. Even Mark Pope told us, hey, give me 6 months with this guy. And he's an elite.
He's an elite player in 6 months. But here's the thing. It's almost a blessing that he's had this injury and that he's a little bit, like, he probably needs to lose 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? So he knows that too. So he's not going to go, oh, I just got cleared, so you need to play me 25 minutes a game. He doesn't have that expectation. That's almost a blessing for Mark Pope, because he can say, we got to ease you in, and we got to get you in shape. You're going to play yourself into shape. Your minutes can increase. So it's not a problem he needs to worry about right now. It's a problem if it becomes a problem halfway through the season when he's in good shape and he's playing himself into minutes. And you know what? And then it doesn't become a problem, because if he's increasing minutes and he's increasingly productive, the other players are going to go, oh, okay, that dude's really good. He deserves 18 minutes.
The challenge for Adams, I see moving forward, is he's going to play a little bit on Friday night, we anticipate. We're going to see a lot more of Dawson on Friday night. We do know that because Mark said, he wanted to give him a taste the other night, and he ended up playing 8.5 minutes, and then figure out how he fits into the rotation. And also, his foot's got to feel better now that he's been
he needs to play more minutes, and then
he can still do a medical redshirt if the foot doesn't quite feel right.
Right. He needs to play more minutes on Friday. And then if it doesn't swell on Saturday, then he needs to play more minutes the next week against Wyoming.
And the challenge for Adams is you got Bellarmine, okay, and then you got Wyoming at home on December 30th. And then you get into Big 12 play where rotations might tighten,
right,
as opposed to stay loose, and where you're not in an opportunity to go, hey, why don't you go in and let's just go see what happens. Go take 4 minutes. Where you can do that against Bellarmine, you can't do it against Baylor.
Right. And you know what? Mark may end up thinking, wait a minute, all of these guys can play. I have 10 guys or 9 guys. Typically a rotation is 8, right? I actually have 10. So you know what? I'm going to play 10 and we're going to press all over the floor, because rarely do you have 10 guys that you trust that you could put in where you could press a higher percentage of the time. And maybe that, they're running down the floor and shooting threes and defending and pressing. If he really has 10 guys that are equal, maybe we see him do that a little bit more. Remember, Adams played the 3 and the 4, mostly probably the 4, right, at 6'8", and at his...
In high school for sure, because he's just dominant.
Right. And so really Baker plays he can play the 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Right. He can play the 1, 2, and 3. So he's different.
But think about the bench.
Foose is a 4-5.
Right now on the bench, you got Robinson, you got Baker, you've got Richie Saunders, who might be the MVP.
He's playing great.
You've got Foose, who's on the end of the bench, getting better.
Tiki's playing off the bench.
You got a Tiki. Then you got Adams. Now you're 11. Now you got 11 guys, because remember you have 5 already out there. And that's a lot. That's a lot when only 5 can be on the floor. And I'm just fascinated to see. This is a problem we didn't anticipate, but it's here, and it's a really good problem to have. But now you got to deal with it.
Which coach was it that told us he thought this was the most talented team Mark had because of the depth? I can't remember which coach we talked to, but one of the coaches. It wasn't Dutch and it wasn't Jonas. I can't remember which game it was.
Was it Evansville's coach?
It was Evansville's coach, I think it was. Said this. Looking on film, this looks like the most talented team Mark's had. So we asked Mark. We told him the Evansville coach said it's the most talented team, and Mark was like, "I've had some more stars."
Like his first year,
right? He goes
second,
but he goes, "I don't know if I've ever had more guys that can play." Like, so he's admitting, like, I've never had 11 dudes this good. He's had really, really high level top couple of guys, and then next level, and then next level, where he's like, I've got 11 guys.
Yeah.
And right now he doesn't have a superstar, although Jackson Robinson's starting to play like one.
Starting to get some NBA traction.
Right.
And he should. He's shooting lights out.
And he's got guys like Adams can be that kind of guy. Colin Chandler is an NBA talent. And I don't throw that out lightly. Like, people were talking to me back when they had, Haas and Mika and all these guys. And I was just like, the
dude
these are borderline NBA guys. They're not like, so I don't just go, this is an NBA guy. But Mark's got some NBA guys now. Possibly. They got to progress, right? Yeah. But they've got think about Jackson Robinson. He's an NBA prototypical. He's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, almost a 40-inch vertical jump that can shoot, that has tremendous lateral quickness.
And that's a great attitude.
Right? That's that, and he needs to get a little meaner and a little more intense to play at that level. But physically, he can play at that level. And BYU hasn't had a lot of guys where they come in and you go, that's like an NBA body guy right there. Colin Chandler is a 6'5" point guard that has phenomenal handles, that can shoot it from as deep as you want him to shoot it. And then if you push up on him, he's going to cross you over and go into the rim. And if there's a 7-footer there, he's going to elevate up over the top of him and throw it down two hands on top of his head.
Maybe not right after he returns from his mission, but soon after.
But that's what I'm talking about, right? That they have some athleticism that they haven't had. Even Noah Waterman, it's 6'11". He's reminding me a lot of Freddie Roberts, only maybe a better shooter from the outside. Now, he's got a long ways to go to be Fred Roberts, who played in the NBA for a number of years.
But he is the leading rebounder.
But he's 6'11", and he's bouncy, and he can shoot it, and he can handle the ball in space, and he can run the floor and finish. Think about BYU over the years. How many times they don't have a lot of guys like that, and all of a sudden they've got a bunch of them. Adams is 6'8", extremely strong, and when he loses the weight he needs to lose, because even with the weight on, he can jump out of the gym.
Yeah.
They don't get guys like that very often.
So Friday night at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN Plus, BYU and Bellarmine will be on the call, and we'll all watch this together. And we are excited to see.
I want to see Dawson Baker play some more.
We're excited to see Baker, and we're excited to see this team, which is number one in the country in shooting threes and making threes. And their bench is number 2 in the country, averaging 40 points a game, and they're going to get some more with Baker and company. And then they're also among the best in the country in defending the three.
Yeah, they get out and
they're rebounding.
They're there on the catch, and they're really good. And their offensive rebounding prowess, the way the strategy they're using, this wedge rebounding, is getting it done. And you and I, like all these shooters, and then you and I have been watching Baker in practice the last couple of practices, and we keep looking at each other going, wow, this dude can shoot it.
Yeah.
He has a beautiful shot.
He's been on a mission to Guam. He gets it all. He loves being here. And hey, do you still have your shot? Yeah.
Well, yeah, we said.
Because he'd been slowed by his foot, but that didn't affect his shot.
I said, are you still shooting it? He goes, yeah. And I go, are you shooting it great? And he kind of pauses. He's like, yeah, I'm shooting it great.
He is shooting it great. He's got it. The way he shot, again, it was 3 quick buckets, but there's the guys who are shooters look like shooters.
Yes, they do.
And he looked. Dilbert, I hope you enjoyed the world's longest answer.
Yeah, that was the longest answer we've ever had on the Cougar
Wise Guys history.
But it got us into a good topic because this basketball team is playing at such a phenomenal level, and it's fun. It's fun to talk about them because, frankly, it's surprised all of us. Like I had no idea they were going to be this good. And like as Jimmer said, will it hold up in the Big 12? Well, I was thinking if they could win like 25% of their games in the Big 12 at home, that was going to be great. And I think what Jimmer threw out there is like they could go 500 in the Big 12.
Why not?
Which would be phenomenal.
Why not? They're a tough team. What makes them a good team and what makes them a tournament team, they have to maintain it for sure. But when you have a team that plays defense, that's committed to that rebounds, is committed to that has a slew of shooters that if you leave them open, they'll make shots. And yet they're also the number 1 assist team in the country, which means they'll pass up a good shot for a better shot. That's how you win games in college.
Well, and here's the thing. So they go up and they lose at Utah, and everybody's like, oh.
First of all, you never want to lose to Utes.
No, you don't want to, right? But I look at that game and went back and watched it again, and I'm going, okay, here's what I take out of that game that's really positive. Because remember, they've played teams as good as, like North Carolina State's as good as Utah. San Diego State's better than Utah, right? They had a terrible shooting night. And that's why nobody goes undefeated. Like, who's the last team that went undefeated?
Indiana.
Right.
1975, 76.
It just doesn't happen because there's going to be a night when you shoot it like crap. And BYU shot it like crap up there. You know what, though? They had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to tie or win the game on the last possession of the game. And so I came out and I went, oh, this is good, because last year if they couldn't shoot it, they got killed.
Yeah.
And last year when they couldn't shoot it, they got beat by teams that had no business even being on the floor with them. This year, they shot it like crap, and they had a chance to win the game at the end of regulation and turn the ball over. But I'm like, okay, they understood that they had to go defend, they had to rebound, they got a bunch of offensive support. They did all the things to stay in the game when they were shooting it like crap. That's the difference between the last couple of years and this year's squad. That gives me hope that they can win more games.
So I wrote this article in the Deseret News today, and that just reminded me of a stat that I'm going to go right here. When compared to the last 11 games of last season, BYU's disappointing 5-6 finish, they had 134 assists. During the 10-1 start, the first 11 games this season, with basically the same guys, they have 237.
Amen.
There you go.
And Tim Farmer on the chat says, I love how well this team plays together. Great teams play unified. It's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun to watch.
It was a great vibe in the building the other day.
Yeah.
And you know what? By the way, there's some holiday deals. Tickets are high this year in the Big 12. Prices are high. But for Bellarmine and Wyoming, there's some holiday deals where you can get in there and watch them cheaper.
In person is fun.
It's and then, it's just they're just raining threes the whole game.
Yeah.
And
then Linda Murray says, can you imagine Colin Chandler added to this lineup?
Yeah, because you know what? Almost everybody's back. Yeah. Almost everybody's back next year. All right, a couple other things going on campus. Women's basketball, they're 9-2.
I called that overtime game the other day.
Yeah.
Crazy. They were down by, it was like they had no chance. It
was a really weird game. Idaho State was up by, 16?
Yeah.
13? And I'm just like, Idaho State.
Amber called a timeout, and they went to a full court press, and Idaho State couldn't manage the pressure. They got a bunch of steals. They came back in the game. They took the momentum. They get into overtime, and they won the thing.
79-76. Lauren Gustin had 18 points and 21 rebounds. The story is Kaylee Smiler.
Oh, yeah.
Her family was visiting from New Zealand, the only game they could see in person. She got a cut to the head in the first half, goes into the locker room, big gash in her head. They take 8 staples. I don't know if they used a stapler or what.
No, they have a little staple gun, and they
boom,
didn't numb it.
Boom. 8 staples without any numbing agent to close the gash. She's like, it was like a scene from Rocky 1 where Rocky's like, cut me, Mick.
Yeah. I will never. She's the toughest player I've ever seen.
So they staple her up. She goes back out. She finishes with 17 points. She's the reason they get back in the game.
Back-to-back threes when they were down. And
afterwards, she said, well, I had to get back in the game for her family. And she was very emotional during the post-game interview.
I don't think her family's seen her play college basketball.
Amazing.
They made the trek from New Zealand. This is the one game they got to see her play. She's like, no. It's like, you're right, on Rocky. Cut me, Mick. Just cut. He's like, what can we do? Well, we can staple it, but we don't,
Just do it. I got to get back out there.
Just staple me then.
That's just tough.
You kidding me right now?
That is tough.
I would cry my eyes out like a baby.
And she may have cried, but she wasn't crying when she came back out. I'd be more injured from the staples than the gashing wound.
When she showed us on the post, she came and did an interview with us on the post game, and she showed it right here in her hairline. Staples, like a whole row of them.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. One of the best stories of the year.
This week, BYU's at the Lady Bear Classic in Springfield, Missouri. So Wednesday, they're at Missouri State, the host school, and that's at 1:30 Mountain Time on ESPN Plus and on BYU Radio with Jason Shepard. And then Thursday, they play Nevada at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and that's on BYU Radio with Shep.
Right. And then women's volleyball. Final ranking, 18.
That came out today.
Yeah, so they've been in the top 18 for 10 years. And that's according to Jeremy Jordan, by the way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We talk about soccer's achievements, and football speaks for itself over the years, and here comes basketball and women's volleyball has been ranked 18 or higher for 10 straight years. Week in and week out.
It's just amazing. So 25-7, 13-5 in the Big 12, 13-2 at the Smith Fieldhouse. Big announcement that Erin Livingston said she'll return for her final year.
That's huge.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal athlete, better than her husband, who played safety at BYU.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, she can jump. She's intense. I love watching Erin play, and she'll be back. She was first team All Big 12 this past year, and she's back to play her
She can go for
season.
All-American.
Yep. And by the way, Texas beat Nebraska. So, BYU lost a couple of games down there. I guess that's not too embarrassing when they're the back-to-back national champs.
Right, and Texas is leaving.
Yeah.
The best two things Texas did: decided to leave, and then actually are
leaving.
Men's volleyball, they're ranked number 3 in the MPSF coaches poll behind Stanford and UCLA. By the way, the home opener is Friday and Saturday, January 5th and 6th at 7 p.m. against Ball State on BYU TV.
And you'll get men's volleyball on BYU TV because, just for a clarification, men's volleyball is not in the Big 12.
Right.
It's the only sport that's not. They're in the best conference in college volleyball. It's the MPSF, Mountain Pacific Sports Federation. And that's where all the great, not every great team, because Penn State's good and Loyola's good, who they're playing. But you're talking the whole West Coast and Hawaii, all in that league together with them, all the Cal schools and UCLA and Stanford.
And that's right where they belong.
Yep.
And they compete with that. And the field house will be rocking for men's volleyball.
And you'll be able to see a lot of them on BYU TV. And frankly, BYU in men's volleyball, they're number 3 preseason. They have a chance to win the national championship this year. They always do.
This is a cool time of year because there's a lot of football games. I watched one today. I think it was the Toast Bowl or the Toastery Bowl. Anyway, it went into overtime, and Western Kentucky won it. And I'm just like, why am I watching this game?
Because you do.
Because you can. So 11 bowl games over the next 7 days, and we picked a couple that are notable. The Gasparilla Bowl has UCF from the Big 12. Taking on Georgia Tech. In the Vegas Bowl, it has Utah, who's going to the Big 12, taking on Northwestern. I don't know what the over-under is. It might be 12.
Yeah.
Because
nobody has a quarterback.
Nobody has a quarterback. Nobody scores. That's down in Vegas. And then the Idaho Potato Bowl, Utah State's playing Georgia State. Georgia State was here playing basketball the other night. They're both 6-6 teams. And I'm not sure who's going to watch that besides the Georgia State fans, the Utah State fans, and you and me.
Yeah, we'll watch it.
But we'll watch it because that's what we do. Yeah. So anyway, and then once we get past next week, the games start to get a little bit bigger. Yeah. The NFL, this is it. This is the big time for the NFL. Let's talk about a couple of Cougars in the league. And Zach Wilson, who played so well 2 weeks ago, and then he ran into a buzzsaw with Miami, who had played so poorly 2 weeks ago. Yeah. You knew they were coming. And they had the home field advantage, and they blitzed and
every play
knocked Zach out of the game in the first half. There's a picture I retweeted because I thought it said everything. It's Zach back to pass, running for his life, and there's 4 Dolphin down linemen chasing him, and behind them are the 5 Jet offensive linemen watching them do it. And I thought, this right here describes the Jets' commitment to quarterback, whether it's Zach or Aaron Rodgers or anybody else. Superman. You're running for your life with the Jets, and Miami's good enough to make them pay. And I think Zach is in the concussion protocol for this week.
And here's the thing: like, he has to get out of there, Dave.
Yeah,
he's got to get out of there. And there's still crazy Jets fans and media that like, oh yeah, he played good last week and now he's not playing well. Really? Tom Brady, in his peak, would look horrible behind the worst offensive line in football. They're terrible.
Aaron Rodgers only lasted 3 plays.
And the receivers drop balls left and right. Yeah. Zach Wilson is not their problem. Can we say the word suck on this show?
Yeah, I think we can.
The rest of their offense sucks. And I'm sorry.
It's hard to believe they're professionals.
It's not on Zach. Has Zach's progression as an NFL quarterback suffered because of where he's played? Yeah,
sure.
If he was someplace else and they were developing him, he would be fine.
I'd love to see him go to San Francisco.
Yes.
Be behind Purdy.
Please.
And be in a system that has linemen to protect you if you go in.
Yeah. It's just like it's a terrible, terrible situation. And it does remind me of Steve Young in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And
where he just got killed.
And when we had Steve and Vi on the show with us, Vi documented for us that because Vi's team, because he returned 2 punts for touchdowns, beat Steve's team and got the number 1 draft, that allowed Tampa to get the number 1 draft pick, and they drafted a quarterback over the top of Steve, changed the world in NFL. Like, Steve goes to San Francisco because now and they were talking about him being the biggest bust ever, and he's terrible. Well, he wasn't terrible. Tampa Bay was terrible.
Right.
He goes to San Francisco. He learns behind Joe Montana. He's in the Hall of Fame. Please, I don't know that Zach's ever going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is get him Get them out of New York. It's terrible.
By the way, you can hear that interview with Vi and Steve at ysguys.com. It's worth going. It's worth going there and checking out. Puka Nacua, 5 more catches for 50 yards. I needed him to get in the end zone like 9 times.
Is he on your fantasy team?
Yeah. And he didn't get in once. But the Rams won, and they're in the playoffs.
You needed him to catch 9 touchdowns to win?
That's the kind of day I had.
Yeah, I get it. Fred Warner, 8 solo tackles. The 49ers routed the Cardinals. They clinched the NFC West, and everybody's still talking about Fred Warner being one of the 5 best players in the league, period.
And how about before that game, Brad Robbins and Gentry sang the national anthem. They're at, what is that stadium where the Cardinals play? University of Phoenix
like
Stadium or something like that. And Brad's interview, we had him on. You can watch that at ysguys.com. So they were down there singing the national anthem. This week, Thursday night, has all the makings of a really cool night for BYU fans. So long as the Saints get Taysom the football.
Please give them the football. The Saints play at the Rams against Puka. Both teams are 7-7, scrambling. And
they got a shot at the playoffs.
Taysom, Jamal, and Danny all at the Saints, right? Danny Sorensen, Jamal Williams. Get Taysom the ball, Saints have a shot. Don't give them the ball, they don't.
And Puka's on the Rams. That means there's 4 Cougars.
The Rams do get Puka the ball.
Yeah.
We don't have to beg them.
There's 4 Cougars on the field in a meaningful NFL football game on national. I don't know what it is. It's on Prime. We call that national because everyone can get it, but you got to go to Prime to get it. But a Thursday night with 4 Cougars, several of them impact players in the NFL going against each other. And I'm looking forward to seeing the group shot afterwards.
Yes, that'll be fun.
As they're all back together. But that's Thursday night. On Friday, we got games going all over the place now with the holidays. The Bills are at the Chargers. Michael Davis.
Michael Davis starting at corner still for the Chargers. Sunday, Browns and Sione Takitaki at the Texans. The Commanders at the Jets. I don't know if Zach's going to play. I don't know. If I were him, I wouldn't. But he may if he gets out of concussion protocol. And then how about the Colts with Blake Freeland? And didn't you say you just were looking in to see if Blake was playing? And right then on the play-by-play,
false start.
He had a false start, so you knew he was playing.
By the way, that Bills game is Saturday, not Friday.
Oh, there you go. And then the Colts, Blake Freeland at the Falcons with Tyler Algier.
So Freeland blocked for Algier, did he
there
not?
You go. Yeah.
And Zane Anderson.
Now they're on the opposite side. Yeah, the Packers and Zane Anderson at the Panthers, and then the Lions at the Vikings. That's Jaron Hall and Kyrus Tonga.
That's another game with playoff implications.
Right.
And Jaron, I believe, will be the number 2 man. So anything happens to the starter, he's in.
Those are all on Sunday.
And then Andy Reid and the Chiefs on Christmas.
Yeah, they got an important win this last week.
Looks like Santa Claus.
They kind of had a little dip here, but it looks like they looked really good. They rallied this last yesterday, and here's the thing: they're not having the kind of they're not going to be 14-2 like they have been in some years, but they're going to win their division still. Looks like, right? So,
and there's 3 games on Christmas. So the NFL's taking on the NBA because the NBA is on. So later that night, the Ravens and the 49ers. This could be a Super Bowl preview.
We're talking about
with Fred Warner Christmas night on on ABC.
Wait a minute, the Ravens. Where's Kyle right now? Van Noy.
He's there.
That's right.
That's
right. You got 2 of the best linebackers in BYU history going against. They don't play on the field at the same time, but Kyle. Playing outside and Fred playing inside.
Now, remember what Kyle was telling us, that when he played Fred, when Kyle was one of his other teams, probably the Patriots, that because we asked him, hey, do you trash talk with the other guys? And he goes, well, sometimes. I usually, before the game or whatever. Yeah. He goes, but with Fred, I'd tackle Fred and put my finger in his ear hole. So now those guys are back together on Thursday night or on Christmas night, and we'll see what he's got planned. But
that's awesome.
So we start the week Thursday with a BYU reunion, and we end Christmas night with a BYU reunion.
So many visible players for BYU in the National Football League. So they're not just in the league, but they're in important positions and really visible positions where people are talking about it. That's so good for recruiting.
All right, you got everything that's going on. Let's wrap up the show on this day, on December 18th.
Yes.
This is a significant day for a lot of reasons, and we'll explain why right now.
Yeah. Let's start in 1865, a historic day. The 13th Amendment is adopted, abolishing slavery in the United States.
On this day.
On this day in 1865.
On this day in 1892, the Nutcracker premieres in St. Petersburg, Russia. It's the world's most performed ballet.
On this day in 1966, Dr. Seuss wrote how the Grinch, or didn't write, he launched, premiered on CBS from his great book, the show How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
And we've watched that over and over. I like it even better than the Jim Carrey movie.
3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the who's he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming.
I had to teach a lesson in church yesterday, and I quoted the Grinch.
You did?
Yeah. That line where, perhaps Christmas means something a little bit
perhaps
more.
Christmas, he thought, perhaps Christmas doesn't come from a store. Perhaps Christmas means something a little bit more.
1968, on this day, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, all 4 hours of it, premieres in New York City. That was the first show, let's see, I was 1, so later in life when I went to watch it, where it's like a halftime. It's like, what? It's halftime? You go out and get treats at an intermission.
Halftime
it was so long
Bang
it
Bang.
had an intermission. You go out and then you come back in and you're scared to death for the child snatcher?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The child snatcher, by the way, the child catcher, like he's the one of the most scary villains I've ever seen in any film.
I wasn't even impressed with the flying car. I was more
the child catcher
petrified by
the child catcher.
So anyway, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah. What was the name of the girlfriend of Dick Van Dyke that he was trying to woo, whose dad owned the Great Treat Factory, where they made Toot Sweets?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was Truly Scrumptious was her name.
That Truly Scrumptious?
Yeah, her dad was Mr. Scrumptious, who owned the Truly Scrumptious.
How do you know that? That's concerning.
Dave, you know that there's so much useless information in this head of mine.
1972, on this day, the Vietnam War ends.
Yeah, how about that? 1976, Wonder Woman premieres on ABC with Linda Carter.
The world was never the same.
Never the same.
How about 1984, A Christmas Carol, starring George C. Scott, premieres on CBS. This was kind of one of the scarier ones.
Yeah.
Because he was obviously a great actor. That's Patton playing Ebenezer Scrooge, but General Patton. But anyway, 1984 on this day.
On this day in 1998, President Bill Clinton was impeached by the House of Representatives. That'll go down.
How wild.
We don't even want to get into what went on with that.
2009 on this day, Avatar released in the U.S., the highest grossing film of all time. I haven't even seen it.
There's a new one called Avatar or Water or something. I haven't seen it.
And then that made a fortune too. But
yeah,
I never got.
I've seen the original one. It's actually pretty amazing.
I'm sure it is.
You got to watch it. You come to our house and watch it in theater because you can't just watch it on a regular TV.
It's like 9 hours long, isn't it?
No, it's not that.
Is it longer than Chitty Chitty
9
Bang Bang?
hours? No.
Is there an intermission?
I don't think it's as long as Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Is there a halftime show in that? Okay.
It's good.
All right, bowl games, by the way. On this day, December 18th, BYU is 2-2 in games played on this day.
Yeah, 1976 Tangerine Bowl. And Oklahoma State beat BYU 49-20. Was that the Terry Miller when you just went nuts?
Gifford Nielsen threw a million picks. 1981, the Holiday Bowl. Tom Holmoe had a pick six. BYU won 38-36 against Washington State. You were down there for that.
Yeah, and that's not the only pick six. Tom had a pick six in our opener back at Georgia too. Herschel Walker couldn't even run him down.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 1981. Tom was the man.
On this day in 2009, there was the New Mexico Bowl. Jake Heaps threw 4 touchdown passes, 3 to Cody Hoffman, 52-24 win against UTEP. And this is kind of where we were thinking, okay, coming back next year. And then 2010 got away.
Yeah. And then in 2021 in the Independence Bowl, that was on December 18th. BYU lost to UAB. Remember that rainy, cold day?
Oh, yeah.
But Tyler Algier rushed for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns to break Luke Staley's single-season rushing record.
That's what we choose to remember.
That's what we're going to remember from that game. And then Tyler, that launched him to a 1,000-yard season in the National Football League the next year.
Birthdays on this day. In 1707, Charles Wesley. Who's Charles Wesley? He's an English Methodist who wrote Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Wow. Hey, how about 1886 birthday, December 18th? Ty Cobb, Hall of Fame basketball player.
Steven Spielberg on this day in 1946.
I didn't realize Steven Spielberg was that old.
Yeah, he's up there.
Now, 1963, guy that's more our vintage, Brad Pitt.
Who was Brad? What was Brad Pitt's best movie?
Well, I know what you. Yeah, I agree with you
because he's been in a lot of them. A lot of them I haven't seen.
I think he's really good in Troy. It's a little violent.
Yeah, he was great in Ocean's 11.
Yeah, but we both agree that Moneyball is the best movie. He's so good in Moneyball.
He was so good in Moneyball, and it was based on a true story. and that just made it more real.
Yeah, yep. And then deaths on December 18th, 1971, Bobby Jones.
Great golfer, Bobby Jones. Chris Farley died on this day.
Yeah.
What was his best movie? It was Saturday Night Live and all that stuff. But
I'm just going to give you a line. I've seen some things in my life. This is after the deer goes nuts in their car. And he goes, I've seen some things in my life. But that was awesome.
Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy is his best, I think.
And Black Sheep. Wasn't he in Black Sheep too?
Yeah.
That was another one.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
Why do really, really funny guys have problems inside and don't stay around a long time?
I don't know. But boy, he died awfully young.
Hey, and I got to remind people, this day, on December 18th on this day, Libby Lloyd premiered in Wicked on Broadway.
That's right.
Today.
I'm glad we got that in.
Yes.
So is her show over? Do you got to call her after the show?
She's going to call us tonight and let us know how it went first night.
Awesome. Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week comes from the Grinch, and we kind of teased it a moment ago. And this is because of his TV debut on this day back in 1966, and these words have resonated ever since.
And I have to say that in the middle of this, I've used this. My kids are like, why do you think that, Dad? And I'll say, well, I've puzzled and I've puzzled till my puzzler was sore. And then I thought of something I hadn't before. So here you go.
Here's the Grinch.
And the Grinch, with his grinchy feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. What if Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store? What if Christmas perhaps means a little bit more?
That's the Grinch on this day in 1966.
One of the great puzzles of all time.
Dr. Seuss is a genius.
I felt bad for Max the dog, though. Like, he put those big antlers on him, and he had to pull that big sled, and it wasn't right.
You know what is available at a store that means a little bit more? C is for Cougar. That's at Deseret Book, Siegel Book, Amazon, BYU store. It's $14.99. It's great for a stocking stuffer for your BYU fan, young or old. Hope you check it out. C is for Cougar.
I just, like, you gave me one. I got the first one.
I know.
Because I stole it out of the box.
Right out of the box.
When we had the christening. But I did just buy two. I just bought two.
Yeah.
So.
And I signed them.
Yes, you did. Yes,
Sign them for your friends. They're great gifts.
I was like, I know a guy that wrote a book.
It's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year through, and it doesn't involve the Jelly of the Month Club.
Nope. It was awesome. That's a great book.
Jimmer Fredette was awesome tonight. So was Ross Oppo.
Yeah, so good to have those guys with us.
We thank them. And the podcast will be up tomorrow. And we encourage you to keep tabs also on our Wise Guys. If you go there and you click the link thing, you get the email, and that'll send you highlights of the show.
Right.
But we'll also be all over YouTube and look for those and share them with your friends. Next week's going to be a fun show for us. It's Christmas night, and so we didn't want DJ to work on Christmas night because his family's in from Hawaii. So what we've done is we took a bunch, not all, but a bunch of clips from our
some of our favorites,
throughout the year and put it together for next Monday night, Christmas night, and then that'll be our podcast for the week. And then we come back the following week, and we'll be back in studio, but the following week, we'll do the year-end review.
Yeah.
The best things from the BYU sports outlets, all the teams from the year, and that'll be New Year's night.
Yep.
And that week, and that's a perfect time to kind of look back as we launch into, year 2 for football in the Big 12, and the spring sports are still waiting. Baseball and softball and stuff, they're still waiting for their first round.
We might even make a New Year's resolution or two on the show. And you can too. You can too.
Yeah, so that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. We hope you have a Merry Christmas. And we thank you for making the Wise Guys part of your life and helping us as we move to Monday, where we're going to stay forever. Yep. And then the holidays for us, the pregame show for the holidays for us is Friday night.
Yep, we have a game Friday night. Bellarmine, Louisville, Kentucky, Christian school. That's, we know a little bit more than that, and we'll share it with you on game.
But we do know Dawson Baker, Marcus Adams, and the 17th ranked Cougars will be on display on Friday night at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN Plus for an hour before the game. We're on BYU TV for the pregame show with Jerem and his guys, and then the postgame afterwards. So that will be our final thing of, after that, Christmas is up to everyone else.
Yep, there you go. And hey, thanks to everybody that sent us well wishes. And Linda Murray's the last one on. Merry Christmas, Blaine and Dave and Wise Guys crew. Thank you all. Great. Have a great Christmas.
See you guys.